Hello, this is a video lecture for lesson 3-1 in Math 101. There are a lot of problems for us to get through here, so I'm probably going to go through this a little fast, definitely faster than I would in the classroom. You may therefore need to pause and rewind and play with the video a little bit if there's anything that you miss or get stuck on or need a little extra time to write something down. So please make use of the flexibility of video to do that, and don't be afraid to do that. All right, let's start with question number 1, which asks us to discuss the number pi. I'm not going to say a whole lot about the number pi. It is a ratio of the circumference of a circle to that circle's diameter. And it's an interesting number in the fact that you cannot write it down in decimal form exactly. That's why we use a symbol pi. To try to write it down in exact decimal form, you need to be able to write infinitely many decimal places. And of course, writing down infinitely many of anything is impossible. And it turns out there's no other easy way to write a number like pi. Pi is, you can't write it as a square root of something, you can't write it as a fraction. The only way that we've been able to find to write it down is as a symbol. So that's what we have. But understand that that's the case. So anytime that we use a number for pi in our work, we are using an approximation for it. Sometimes we will use 3.14. Only use that if the instructions tell you to. Other times you'll find that there is a pi key on your calculator, and if you press that, it will give you more decimal places, something more like what I'm writing down here, 3.141592654, for instance. Your calculator probably has about twice as many decimal places in its memory, so it can do things much more accurately if you use that key. So again, if you don't see instructions telling you to use 3.14, use the key in your calculator. Your answers will match up with what you will see in solution keys and stuff much better that way. So our first lesson here is talking about circumference and perimeter. So we're talking about the distance around something. So the circumference for a circle is 2 times pi times the radius of that circle. And the radius is the distance from the center out to the edge. The diameter is the distance all the way across through the center. We call that d. And a d is equal to 2 radii. Or we could say that a radius is half of a diameter. So these are some things that you will need to know and want to keep track of for working with circles. For a rectangle, if we call it, say, one side L and the other side W, then the perimeter of a rectangle is going to be equal to 2L plus 2W. And I apologize if some of these formulas look slightly different from the ones earlier in the book. Everything I'm giving you is correct. Sometimes we can just write these things in different ways. For squares, we typically call the length of one side just s. And since there are 4 sides to a square, we get 4s for the perimeter. For a triangle, we can call the sides a, b, and c. And the perimeter is just simply a plus b plus c. Always remember, perimeter and circumference are the distance around the outside of something. So if you start at one corner of a building and walk all the way around, returning back to that corner, how far did you walk? That's kind of where the rectangle formula comes from. So let's take a look at some examples here. Find the perimeter of a rectangle with length 4 feet and width 2 feet. We're going to take our formula, p is equal to, and we're going to say that we have 2 times 4 plus 2 times 2. The numbers in the parentheses are replacing the L and the W from our formula, right? I said that p was equal to 2L plus 2W. And it's a good idea to always substitute numbers in for letters using parentheses. It helps get things into the calculator correctly. And you should notice that you do have parenthesis keys on your calculator. So you can type in exactly 2, left parenthesis 4, right parenthesis plus 2, left parenthesis 2, right parenthesis. And in this case, you should find out that the perimeter is equal to 12. And we know it's 12 feet because those are the units that we were originally given to start with here. Number 4, find the perimeter of a rectangle with length 12 yards and width 33 yards. Well, we're going to have P is equal to 2 times 12 plus 2 times 33, and that's going to give me 90 yards. Notice that the units changed. All right, so be careful about that. 2 times 12 is 24, 2 times 33 is 66. We add those together, we get a total of 90 yards. Number 5, we're going to find the perimeter of a rectangle. 2 times 82.5 plus 2 times 74.25, and let's see what we get. So I'm going to do that on my calculator here real quick. And if I typed everything incorrectly, oops, I'm going to get P is equal to 313.5 inches. All right. Now, in question number 6, we're asked to write our answer in a lot of different ways. So let's just set this up first. So P is going to be equal to 2 times 6, that's our length, plus 2 times, I'm going to write it as 5/6 this way because that's what it's going to look like when we type it into the calculator. And I'm going to write over here on the right hand side where that comes out to. So I'm going to take 2 and then put 6 in parentheses, plus 2 and put 5/6 in parentheses. And what my calculator does, it comes up and it tells me 13 point, lots of 6's and then a 7 at the end. Well, the 7 is because it's trying to round the very last digit, but it's really, there are 6's that go on forever. So one way we could write this is 13.6 repeating. That would be an exact decimal form, so that would be answer C. If we convert that using our calculator to a mixed number first, so you're going to press the second key and the PRB key, you should get that this is 13 2/3. And I forgot my unit on the first one, so let me erase and fix that. It's 13.6 repeating meters. This is 13 2/3 meters. Now if you press the second key and the ABC key, that should convert you to what's called an improper fraction. And in this case you should get 41/3 meters. All right, so our first answer was to part C, exact decimal. The mixed number was answer B. The improper fraction was answer C. So all we have left is answer D, which is the approximate decimal form to the nearest hundredth of a meter. So if we go back to our, if we actually probably just type in 41 divided by 3, convert that back to a decimal. Nearest hundredth is 2 decimal places, so we'll say 13.67 meters. I'm going to put an approximate symbol in front of that. You could also write the word about. And that is the answer to answer D. I don't care if you answer these in the order that they ask them for, just as long as you answer each one and identify which one they go to. It's important that you know what an improper fraction is. Improper just simply means the top is bigger than the bottom. A mixed number, which is a mixture of a counting number and a fraction. An exact decimal answer, which in this case includes the repeating bar. Not very useful because you won't find that bar in a calculator, but it is a way to write things down. And then an approximate answer decimal form, rounded appropriately, and for that we need that approximate symbol or our word about. Number 7 has a little bit of a trick to it. You'll notice that the length is given in feet and the width is given in inches, so we have to convert one of those to the other. And I don't care which way you do it. If you're given a question like this, your final answer could be in feet or inches. Either one would be correct as long as you've done things correctly. In this case, I'm going to do it in inches. So I'm going to take 4 feet, and that's over x inches, and that's going to be equal to 1 foot over 12 inches. That's how I could do the conversion. We did these back in lesson 2-5, I believe it was, or 2-4. If we solve this, multiply on the diagonal, divide by the remaining number, we should find out that x is equal to 48 inches. So now I can use my formula. P is equal to 2 times 48 plus 2 times 6. Everything's in inches. And that is going to give me 108 inches. If you did that the other way in feet, you would end up with 9 feet. All right, so I'm going to write that here in a different color, or 9 feet. Okay, we're going to shift our formula here for a couple of problems. Perimeter of a square with the length of each side 6 centimeters. So perimeter of a square was P equals 4S. So in this case, we're going to have 4 times 6. We're going to get 24 centimeters, and I'm going to abbreviate that as cm. For number 9, P is going to be equal to 4 times 9.25, which is going to be 37, in this case kilometers. I'm going to abbreviate that with km. Number 10, let's see if I can get this to pop down on the next page here real quick. So let's go here. Oops. There we go. All right. Number 10 is another one where we have lots of answers to work with. But let's just start with our formula. So P is equal to 4 times, I'm going to write that as 4 over 9 this way. And if we do that, we get 1 point, lots of 7s, and an 8. Again, that 8's being rounded because there's 7s coming after it. So we could write that as 1.7 repeating. That's in millimeters, or mm. That is our exact decimal answer, so that's the answer to part C. If you convert that to a mixed number, you will get 1 7/9 millimeters. And that is answer B. If you convert that to an improper fraction, you will get 16/9 millimeters. That is answer A. And if we round a little bit to the thousandths, that's 3 decimal places, we'll get 1.778 millimeters for answer D, the approximate decimal, and I'll remember to put the tilde in front for our about. Perimeter of a triangle now with sides of lengths 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. So we said for a triangle we'd have A plus B plus C, and it doesn't make any difference which one's A, which one's B, which one's C. So we can say P is equal to 3 plus 4 plus 5. Oops. And that's going to be equal to 12 feet. Oops, rewrite that there. All right. Next triangle, P is equal to 4.6 plus 3.7 plus 7.8. And let's see what I get there. 4.6 plus 3.7 plus 7.8. That's going to be 16.1, and that's in miles. Number 13 is going to want multiple answers, 3 in this case. So we're going to have 13 halves plus 11 fourths plus 15/6. So let's see what we get here. 13 halves plus 11 fourths plus 15/6. I get straight off the calculator 11.75 yards. That's an exact decimal answer. And notice there's nothing repeating. The decimal doesn't go off the screen. We call this a terminating decimal. So we don't need to do an approximate decimal, and it doesn't ask us for one here. There's no need to round. We don't have infinitely many decimal places. If we convert that to a mixed number, we'll have 11 3/4 yards. That is answer C. And if you convert that to an improper fraction, you'll have 47/4 yards, and that is answer B, the improper fraction form. All right. 14 asks us to find the perimeter of an equilateral triangle. The word equilateral means equal sides. So when it says side lengths of 33/2 miles and it's equilateral, that means all those sides are the same length. So our P is going to be 33/2 plus 33/2 plus 33/2. And that is going to give us 49.5. That's in miles. That is our exact decimal form, so that is answer C. In in mixed number form, that's 49 1/2 miles. That would be answer B. As an improper fraction, that's 99/2 miles. That would be answer A. I don't know why some of those P's are getting weird like that. All right, for our last couple of problems, we're going to deal with circles. So a reminder, first of all, that C is equal to 2 times pi times r. In both questions 15 and 16, we are not told to use 3.14 for pi. That means we're going to use the key on the calculator, the pi key there. All right, so for the first one, we're going to say C is equal to 2. I'm just going to write pi again because we're going to use the key on the calculator, and the radius is 8. Now, I'm not going to type that directly into the calculator because it asks me for an exact answer. Remember, the problem with pi is we cannot write it down exactly as a decimal. So what I'm going to do is multiply the 2 and the 8 together. That'll give me 16, and I'm just going to leave the pi untouched. 16 times pi. That's in feet, and that is an exact answer. That's the only way for us to write it down exactly, because pi has those infinitely many decimal places we can't write down. So to write pi or anything involving pi exactly, we need to actually include the symbol. Now, if we actually go through and type it under our calculator, we will find out that that is equal to 30.27 feet. It's about that, so I'm going to use the tilde there, our squiggle for about. You could use the word about. And that is our approximate answer rounded to the nearest hundredth of a foot. That's why I did 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places means hundredth of a foot. For our very last question here, we have the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 11 meters. Notice it's not giving us the radius, so it's helpful to remember that the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. So in this case, it's 11 divided by 2, which you could also write as 5.5 if you like. Therefore, C is equal to 2 times pi times 5.5. To get an exact answer, we multiply the 2 and the 5.5 together to get 11. We leave the pi alone, just bring it along, so 11 times pi. That is in meters. That is our exact answer, answer A. Then we can go and multiply 11 by pi using the pi in your calculator. We're rounding to the nearest tenth, so we're going to get 36.4 about meters. And there you go for part B. All right, apologize for the length of the video, a lot of problems to look at here, and I hope I wasn't going too fast. Again, if there's anything you need to go back and review, please review the video and use the ability to pause it, to rewind it, to go back and revisit anything that you need to.